Welcome to the Fab Four Travel Talk podcast with Christy, Gina, Eric, and Kyle. Now, sit back and relax. Let's chat about some magical destinations.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of our podcast. This is Christy, and I'm your hosting this week.
Woohoo! I'm your hosting.
Yay, I'm off to a great start. We are all here this week.
Are you the hostess?
Hostess with a mostess?
Oh, there you go.
Or Debbie, little Debbie's.
Little Debbie's. I was thinking
Little
like the little Debbie's.
Mm.
But those would be little
But those
Debbie's,
are not hostess. Right,
No.
exactly. You
Yeah.
got to get your snack treats or snack cakes.
Snack cakes.
Yeah.
Right, your snack cake straight.
Off the rails.
So, yeah,
Hi,
off the
everybody.
rails.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
tonight we're
snacks are not off the rails. Snacks
we
are
just-
on the rails.
jumping the shark early, that's all.
Right.
All right, so with me this week I have Kyle,
Hello.
Gina,
Hi.
and Eric.
Said it before, and I'll say it again. Hi, everybody.
Wow.
Oh, it's going to be one of those.
It's going to be one of those nights.
Uh-huh.
One of those nights.
Great. So tonight we are
feeling it.
talking about air travel. And it occurred to me when I was
And
thinking,
feeling's gone.
it occurred to me that we've done all these episodes and have never talked about air travel specifically.
Yeah, you're right.
So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we're going to try it tonight.
Cool.
There are things to say,
Yeah.
for sure.
I figured there, especially you two, I'm sure would have lots to say.
I have things to say.
You have things to say.
I have things.
There are things. So we're going to cover a wide variety of stuff tonight. We're going to talk about the RealID that
Mhm.
is going to be required for air travel as of October 1st.
Mhm.
But then we're also going to talk about some listener questions about air travel. And then, as Gina kind of alluded to, we're going to talk about snacks
Yeah.
because
Snacks.
the airlines are not all the same with what they offer in the
Oh.
snack department.
Mm-mm.
Apparently not.
No.
They're not.
So should we start with snacks? Because snacks
Why
is
not?
more fun.
Yeah,
Snacks
sure.
is way more fun.
Yeah.
We could end on a high note, though. It's fine.
Yeah. Let's talk about snacks.
Too
Okay.
late.
What is the best food or snacks you've ever had on an airline? Not on an airline, on a flight.
Flight. Oh, that wasn't a flight. That was a train.
Oh, yeah, the Eurostar.
Yeah, the Eurostar had a
Yeah.
great snack. Trying to remember what we had for snack, because we had snack, meal, and breakfast.
Yeah, none of it. It's all kind of the same to me. It's all kind of subpar.
No.
Well, I shouldn't say that. It is
I
what
feel
it
like
is.
the snack was like a turkey sandwich on like a hard baguette kind of
Oh,
thing.
now that's my kind of thing.
Marie
Yeah,
the baguette.
Yeah,
Sorry.
which to
Marie
me
the
was more
baguette.
like a
Come on,
meal.
everybody knows that one.
Do you guys know what he's
Nope.
talking about?
No,
I don't
I don't
either.
know.
Marie
run
the
that by me again?
baguettes. Nobody knows that one.
Marie the Baguette.
What?
Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, wait, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Marie the baguettes.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway.
In the
All
song?
all our Disney people know. Yeah, when
Just a
she
short
walks
one.
into town. Yeah, she
Mhm.
walks into town and she's like picking out the food and stuff, and he's like, Marie the baguettes.
It's a short little
Yeah.
snippet.
Yeah. All right.
All that useless information in there
It's a
keeps him cloudy. So when he asked me the 87th time, when's my vacation?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I have to
No,
put in
no,
for it. Didn't we put in for that like 6 times already?
I understand though. It's
Yeah.
a vignette. I call that a vignette. You have these
Yeah.
little vignettes in your mind of cool
Uh-huh.
things like that.
Exactly.
I'm
Completely
loaded.
useless.
I'm loaded
things.
with them.
I don't have a vignette of that. I don't know that I have any vignettes.
Okay. Anyway.
Maybe I do.
All right.
But-
So back to
but-
snacks.
Yeah. Back to snacks.
To me, snacks are they've kind of flown enough now where I can't. None of them are memorable to me.
I have a favorite snack. A
Do you
domestic
really?
favorite snack. I do. The
Okay.
Biscoff cookies. I love
That's-
the Biscoff
Okay.
cookies.
okay.
So I have never even heard of those till I read the Condé Nast article about flights.
Yeah.
I'd never
Really?
heard of a Biscoff cookie before.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my
So I've never
gosh.
had one.
They're one of my favorite cookies. They're kind of like shortbread, but they're cinnamony.
Mhm.
They're really good with coffee.
Mhm.
My mom, I buy them too, but my mom always has Biscoffs. That's
Mhm.
like her evening snack
Hmm.
before she has a cup of coffee and a Biscoff.
They're good with tea.
They are, and I love them.
So what airline serves those, or where did you get
American.
those?
Yeah,
Americans. It's standard on American.
Yeah, and I want to say that somebody else, United, does as well.
What were you going to say, Eric?
I don't know.
I thought you were going to. You were.
No.
Mom. No. Okay.
No.
I've never flown on American. Ever.
Wow. You
You haven't either. Commie. Did you call me commie? It took me a second.
That's flashback from
No, that
last
was
episode.
Comrade.
Oh yeah, that was
That's
Comrade,
what
and
it
you,
was.
Christy,
Okay.
wasn't here for that.
Right.
No, and I haven't listened to it yet. I will, but I haven't yet.
Mhm.
Okay.
Sure. Okay.
Mhm.
Anyway.
So my favorite snack is usually on JetBlue, because they have things like Cheez-Its, and last time we went, they had Chips Ahoy cookies.
Oh,
So like, those real basic things.
yeah.
See, I don't count those things because that's like a commodity. That's like something you can get anywhere.
Yeah, but
Well, see, I normally fly Southwest, and so you get pretzels.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're a morning flight, you get Belvita, those little Belvita wafers, breakfast
laughing-
wafers.
Laughing cow kind of things. Is that what-
No, it's like a biscuit.
Yeah,
But
it
there's really
is.
nothing
Yeah.
to it. And I don't
Oh,
mind
okay.
them. But that's normally
They're kind of-
Southwest.
You know those little thins that I eat in the morning sometimes?
Mhm.
They're kind of like that.
Okay. Ugh.
Yeah. And so normally, like, that's our normal flight is Southwest, and it's 3 hours back to back and
Mhm.
Mhm.
whatever. But my, I think you're looking at me because of my JetBlue Mint.
No, that was what I was thinking. I was recalling my favorite snack.
Oh, okay. Well, after. So when I did JetBlue Mint,
I'll be back later, folks.
You will wait.
For those of you that are watching Eric slowly sinking off screen,
you should go check us out on YouTube.
right? You should.
He's just.
You're going to hurt yourself or the microphone.
I can't make it all the way.
I was going to say now. Can you get up?
Okay, I'm back.
The meal on JetBlue Mint was really good. And I was able to call ahead and tell them I wanted a different option because their
Oh.
regular option was very frou-frou-y.
Too frou-frou for you.
So I ended up with like melon and pineapple and eggs with cheddar cheese. Like that was good.
Wow. Okay.
But that's a meal rather than snacks.
Yeah.
Eric?
Was it my turn now?
It's your turn.
Hey. I don't remember what flight it was on, but remember the Le Petit Fromage? Remember the little cheeses?
Yes, that was
What
our
flight was that
honeymoon, and that was Delta.
Oh,
I
okay.
love Delta.
Yeah, that was 1999.
So I actually,
Party.
one of
See,
for
that's-
part of
Sorry.
part of getting ready for this was doing some reading, and apparently Delta's actually got their stuff together and has been doing much better in the not customer service, but customer ratings, I guess.
They
they've
were the
moved
number
themselves way
one
up.
rated airline
Yeah.
for 2019.
I mean, that's what so it's a huge hub for Atlanta.
Yeah. We grew up with Delta.
We grew up with
Oh,
Delta.
okay.
Yeah, that's in Atlanta. That's what you fly. And that's what we flew to Europe. And I have nothing but
Okay.
nice things
flew
to
to
say about it.
Hawaii.
Even though the flight was delayed, there was nothing they could do about it. I mean, it was a maintenance thing that they had to do, and but they kept us they kept us informed, I guess,
Mhm.
That's good.
So yeah.
To keep you full of snacks.
No, we did not have to board the plane and then just sit
that's
there.
good. Oh,
Yeah,
that's good.
so we were on the concourse, so no. But there were plenty of snacks to be
Yeah,
had.
but
on the plane.
1999, that was back in the golden age of flight too. That was prior to
Golden age of
that was
flight.
prior
It
to
was.
9/11. So that was back
Mhm.
when you got dressed up to go places and fly.
Oh, we
Right.
didn't.
Come
We did have our
on.
matching T-shirts, and that was before that
See?
was really a
Like,
thing.
before that was a thing,
Oh.
I made those.
Yeah.
Yeah. See.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that was the extent of our getting dressed up for a flight.
Snacks were snacks.
I laugh when you look back and you see like video or like old flights and people
Yeah.
wearing, full suits and
Oh,
ties
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
and are all dressed
remember.
up and stuff like.
Well, I remember that we would get dressed up for flights.
Yep.
It was a big
Really?
It
deal
was a
to
big- oh,
fly.
absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even back in the early 80s, 70s.
Yep.
I remember when I was little, it was a big deal to fly because
Yeah.
it was still
Huh.
it still wasn't like cheap.
Right.
Yep. Right.
And a
Yeah, there were
lot of people didn't do
bargain
it.
airlines.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there were
exactly.
no bargain airlines, and Delta
Yep.
was a big thing because Delta was back then Delta was the largest
Yeah.
and maybe the oldest, if not the oldest big airline.
It's one of the few. I think there's only like
Surviving.
3 of them left.
Yeah.
What? Delta, United, and American.
Yep.
Yeah, and according to Condé Nast, Delta Airlines is the second largest airline right now.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder who the first is.
American, I believe.
I bet that article tells you.
I don't know. American's not on this list.
It's because they suck. I mean, it's
Right?
it's pretty bad.
I mean, I've never flown them, but
If I remember correctly, the thing that I saw said Spirit was the only one that was below them.
Below
on the list.
American.
Yeah,
Spirit's
and
bad.
I think it was Spirit. It was one of the articles that we were
Or
looking
Frontier.
at. May have been Frontier.
Frontier, I think
Yes,
that's what it
that's
was.
right. Yeah.
I fly American a lot because A, it's a hub in Charlotte,
Charlotte, yeah.
Yep.
and B, it's one of the preferred partners for my employer. So
Yeah.
That's what
Well,
you get.
Well, yeah.
If you want a nonstop flight out of Charlotte to anywhere, you have to fly American.
yeah, that too.
That's pretty much how it goes.
And you usually fly American to New Hampshire, right?
I do. Yeah, because it's nonstop.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I fly to Baltimore and have a 2-hour layover and then fly in on Southwest.
Yep.
And it's just not worth it.
I have clients that just went. They're down in Walt Disney World right now, and they flew American to Charlotte and then Charlotte to Orlando.
hmm
Um,
They're fine. I mean, I don't find them overly nice, but they're not. I mean, it's just kind of the luck of the draw of who you get and whatnot. I don't find I've never had a customer service issue with American, but yeah.
Well, you know what's funny is like if you watch on like comedy shows like the late night TV, they always joke about Southwest, and we fly that almost exclusively because that's where we would fly out of to go to Orlando, and that's obviously where we go most often.
Right.
And we've never had an issue with them either. Like, they sing, they like will do a little dances. They, like. It's a no frills thing, but I don't even know what that means because it's like
no flights have frills.
Right. They don't.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
that's the honesty.
All flights are frill free.
Yeah.
I honestly measure a flight now by how much room I have in the seat or how much leg space there is because I'm short. So if I don't have much leg space, I always think about what would Kyle do? Like he would be eating his knees right now.
Yeah.
And I do find that American has probably some of the smallest seats.
Yeah.
I do find that Southwest has bigger seats and Delta has bigger seats.
Yep.
So, which is a pain in the butt, especially if you're poo sized, because you have to get a seat extender or whatever. So
yeah.
For me, flying is just an exercise in endurance. It really is. It's not, and I don't fly first class. And even if I did fly first class, I think it would still be. It's still uncomfortable. So I don't have all the.
I don't know. I'm thinking it's not too bad.
So I've flown first class twice.
I can't stretch out. I mean, unless I'm flying like international flight where I have one of the like lay back seat, completely I can like lay out.
Yeah. Right.
Well, that's what JetBlue Mint. They run from east to west.
Yeah.
The one time I was able to do that they laid down flat.
Yeah. Well,
and that
I'm
was
not made out of money.
Well, I wasn't either. That was a points thing, which was fabulous.
Sure.
But yeah, like you can't.
So what happens when they get west? They just keep going?
Well, they have west to east too.
Oh, you just said they had east to west.
Sorry,
So
they come back.
But
it's like, it's the long haul
They
flight.
fly around the world to get
way.
it back to the East Coast.
Plane will be back in a few days. Don't worry about it.
Here's your parachute. Get out.
Get out now.
It's a long haul flight. anyway. But I also did, and this is something to keep in mind if you ever have a chance to fly JetBlue. JetBlue does this, and so does Hawaiian. So the other ones might too.
Mhm.
But if you wait till you get like at the gate, you can ask about upgrading. And if
Right.
they have unsold first class seats, they'll sell it to you for much, much less.
Yeah.
That's how I ended up flying first class Hawaiian Air from Honolulu to LAX.
Okay.
Is I just happened to walk up to the counter and say, "Hey, do you have any?" And they were like, "Oh, we have 2." And I was like, "Well, it's only me." So,
Yeah.
and I think I ended up paying, I think it was $100.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was like, "Oh my gosh, should I do this?" And it was an overnight flight.
Oh yeah.
So, and they didn't have the lie flat seats, but they had the recliners. So you were laid back like to a really good position.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I was able to sleep all the way to LAX overnight. So it was perfect for
Yeah.
$100.
Nice.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So always check at those gates. That's my biggest tip. In fact, Jennifer Campbell from Oklahoma had a question about how can she get the best boarding number on Southwest without breaking the bank. And that's kind of a similar tip.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we talked about this earlier. It's, you go up to the gate. Like once you check in and you get through security and all that stuff, head up to the gate and just ask them. It's one of those things. I know Southwest does it all the time. And like you said, I'm sure the other ones do it too. And we've seen with Southwest that if you do it after you get through security, it's significantly cheaper than it would be if you went to the front desk when you get into the airport, which is crazy because it's the same flight, it's the same seat, and they know it's available. But for some reason, there's this thing that they do once you get through there where they're giving you the discount. So
yeah, when you're printing your stickers, your luggage stickers at the front, it'll say like upgrade your flight for $482 extra. Obviously, I'm like, first of all, this is Southwest. My original ticket didn't cost close to that. Like,
Right.
okay. But if you go through security, go to your gate, it's $40 to upgrade your boarding position. And so I oftentimes when I travel will take a picture of my boarding pass because I'll get A1 because a lot of people, especially on that Orlando flight, they're not traveling for business. So people haven't bought that special ticket up front.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And so it's a huge benefit there. So I pay $40. On occasion, we'll all do it, but sometimes it's just a matter of, well, one of us will do it and then just save the seats. Because
how do you find that goes when you save seats? I've only done that once, and that was coming back from a Guru weekend, and I saved it for a fellow agent.
We've only ever had one problem. We had some guy that was just wanted to be obnoxious about it. He's like, well,
and the interesting thing is,
and he was just being a jerk. But for the most part, we've never had any other issues.
No, and honestly, the gate agent has said to me when I go to buy 3 upgrades, she's like, well, why don't you just buy 1 and save it?
Oh, so they know people save.
Yeah.
They don't have a problem with that.
No.
Despite saying that you're not supposed to.
Yeah.
So their official policy says
not to.
It's first come, first serve. So there's nothing addressed about not saving, but they say first come, first serve. But they will absolutely tell you when you go to upgrade.
Get Maddie to check on the muffins. Sorry. Our daughter's cooking and the timer went off and I haven't heard her.
Haven't heard the feet.
Hadn't heard. Yeah. Sorry.
Check the muffins before the house burns down.
Yeah.
Always a good idea. Yeah. And I mean, but honestly, at that point, I feel better just buying the 3 upgrades because it's just one of those things, you're just not going to have a problem.
Right.
And if you're dealing with, flight anxiety like I have on occasion, it's just easier I'd rather spend the money and deal with it at that point and just go, nope, we're all
totally set. Yep. That'd totally be
together.
My family. That's what they would want to do too.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing we have done in the past is bought 2 because if I sit in the window seat and Allie sits in the aisle seat, no one's going to try to get the middle seat except for Eric.
Right. True.
So that makes it a little easier too.
Especially if you're coughing and sneezing and doing everything while you're sitting there.
Oh my gosh, I saw a meme that said people should be in the line at the grocery store and start coughing and say, "I haven't felt this bad since I left China."
Right. I saw that too.
And I was like, "Oh, that's awful!"
That's
like, boom,
good.
no line.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord.
So you have other questions?
We do. And this actually is a great one for Kyle and Gina to talk about because Amy from Connecticut was asking about luggage restrictions on international flights. And since you guys have flown internationally, talk to us about what it's like to fly internationally and what those restrictions are like.
So it's really great in Europe to fly from one country to another. You can do it super cheap. I mean, we're talking like $20 to fly.
Wow.
Yeah, super cheap. However, where they get you is your luggage. And if you have to check a bag or you exceed a limit, it's really more about exceeding the limit, because we all checked bags and it wasn't that expensive. But you really need to check those weight limits, because they're different for different airlines. There's not like a consistent standard, is what we figured out. There is kind of size-wise, I guess, for a carry-on bag, some consistency, but it is smaller than what the American flights, meaning U.S. domestic flights.
Yeah.
So if you're flying like Air France or KLM or RealID or some of those inter-European flights, their carry-on requirements are going to be different from if you had them domestically in the United States. So I would check, because every company is different. Air France, was it Air France or Lufthansa was the...
Air France was the most restrictive, I believe.
Restrictive, okay, yeah. So I would definitely, and of course everything is going to be in the metric system too, so
makes it more confusing.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that when I was prepping for the show, I was thinking almost every question someone's going to ask is going to end with, but check with the individual carriers.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, it's
everything
true.
changes so often.
Yep.
Yeah, and it
does.
changes. We could say something today, and tomorrow you could wake up and be like, oh, Air France has changed this.
Yeah.
So that's why we're
Yes.
talking in somewhat generalities, because you really have to kind of either talk to your travel agent or go research those things on your own.
Right.
And you said that we did checked luggage, but we did not do checked luggage. We checked the luggage sizes. Everything that we did was carry on, because checked luggage actually cost you extra, because that's
Right. I was thinking when we
those
left,
are larger size. Your checked luggage can be larger sizes.
Oh, that was on the train.
But you pay for,
right.
You would pay for those larger sizes, and checked luggage will cost you extra and stuff like that.
But they're over the weight fees
they
and
could
things.
they could
are
be
like
over.
a couple $100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they're significant. That's where they get it. That's where they make their money, is because you go up with a check bag or a carry-on bag, and it exceeds those requirements, and it's like, boom, you're automatically charged.
So we did carry on for everything, but we made sure to stay within those weight limits.
Yeah. It's really nice to
and size limits.
There's a couple of, if you look online, baggage companies that specifically cater for European flights. So they'll make, they might even say this is a European bag, a European flight bag, or a European carry-on. And that's what that means. It's a smaller carry-on bag than your American one.
I have clients that are doing the Greek Isles Disney cruise in June.
Yeah.
And they sent me their flight confirmation so I could set up travel insurance with all of that. And it showed their baggage fees, because they were flying, I think it's British Airways, from Boston to, some European country.
Wherever.
And then they have a flight, I think it was Barcelona. And then somewhere Barcelona to somewhere else to get the ship. And it was astronomical. And I'd already known that you guys had talked about that, but they were saying that their cruise is so long they couldn't do with less clothes. So they had to pay really hefty. Like I could fly back and forth to Orlando for the cost of their baggage fees.
Right.
Yeah.
And see, they say they can't, but we did a little over 2 weeks with ours.
Did you guys end up doing laundry?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
We found and just FYI, laundromats are not a thing in Europe very much. So we found one in Paris was the first place that we could actually wash them. Otherwise, we were doing it in the sink. Like in Germany, my mom and I did laundry in the bathroom sinks, and like hung it all over the room. It was pretty funny. And so
we had a humidity problem after
we
we hung
did.
up all the clothes. It's like, woo, it's warm and moist in here.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's cool though.
So you can do it. It just maybe we'll do some tips on how to one
We
day.
can do some travel Europe tips.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Outfits to wear and whatnot.
Yeah, we need to know how to pack light.
Yeah.
In fact, we're going on our trip this time, and JetBlue does not have free bags.
Right.
So, and it's like $50 a bag now, I think, for JetBlue. And so now we're that's what we're doing for our cruise, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to pack in order to bring one suitcase and 3 carry-ons, and try to make that be enough. But we'll see what happens. Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm not looking at you like anything.
You looking at me
Roll
like
up your clothes and use packing cubes. They do help.
Yeah.
We actually have the vacuum bags too somewhere in here that we could use.
Okay.
That would
There you
help.
go.
It'd help get there. It wouldn't help get back. But
Right.
Yeah.
so once you open them, they just go.
Right. Exactly.
It's
I always like that.
like a pinata, just stuff going everywhere. Just
So our next questions, it's actually 2, were from Jody from Indiana and Stephanie from New Hampshire. And they were very similar kind of questions, so I put them together figuring we could answer them as one.
Okay.
And they're asking about what people that need special considerations, what preparations they need to do before they get to the airport. So specifically, they were talking about someone that has a wheelchair and it needs assistance from the curbside right to their airplane seat.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one. And then someone else was talking about anxiety and allergies and that sort of thing. Some things that may be, obviously with a wheelchair, that's something people can see that you have a need for.
Right.
But then there's all kinds of needs that people may not be aware of.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
So Kyle, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I could definitely speak to, we can speak to the anxiety thing, but we can also speak to, I can speak to the fact that I have, a visual impairment, which is something that people obviously sometimes can't see with me.
Right.
Or can't tell that I have that unless you spend some time with me. And there's nothing that I can do that I have done in the past ahead of time. And I'm trying to think of situations or other situations where it might help someone to take care of something beforehand, before they get to the airport, because you always have the option to do this, to take care of the situation at the airport. Because most airlines they have concierge services and people who are accessibility specialists and stuff like that are always on staff that can take care of things right there at the point at the curbside. So you don't have to call ahead. And you may have to wait a little bit longer. Well, actually, you probably won't, because when you call ahead, there's no guarantee that you're going to get, there's no scheduling and stuff like that. So I would say sometimes you're not even going to benefit yourself by calling ahead, unless you just want to get information and know what the procedure and what to expect and things like that. But it's like calling for a wheelchair when you arrive there. You can do things like that, or calling for, if you're blind, calling for assistance and someone to, give you an arm to help you. You can get that at the curbside. You don't have to call ahead.
Have you ever ridden on one of those carts that go beep, beep, beep?
I actually
beep?
have. I actually have done that before.
I always envy those people. I'm like, wow.
Well,
I wish I could ride on that as I'm lugging my stuff down.
I've actually only pulled, I like to say, I use the term pulled the blind card. I've only done that at the like ticketing terminal. I've only done that one time at like the security gate, right there where the ticketing terminal and the security is. I've only done that like one time when I was just like really tired and I had like all my bags and stuff, and I was just like, oh, you know what? I'm not even going to do this. And I did this right like at the security terminal. I was like, hey, TSA guys, I need some help here, because I was like a really long security line, and I was just like nervous and anxious, and I was like, oh, help me out. And they were like super gracious about it. I didn't even have to show anything. I just said, hey, I'm legally blind. Can you help me out? And they were like, you know what? No problem. Absolutely. We'll help you. And they shuffled me off, took me on the side and helped me out and stuff like that. Took me through security. And that was when I got to ride on the car.
Oh, okay.
And they took me through security and put me on the car and rode me to the gate. And at the gate, and you could do this at the gate. So if you're once you get to the gate, you just say, hey, airlines, absolutely no one, they never ask for, there's never a need when you have an accessibility need. An airline will never ask for identification.
Right.
Or proof of disability or anything like that.
They can't.
And I've never had an issue with an airline, giving any pushback on it. It's always been a pretty painless experience.
And now you're flagged, right? Now they have it on your record, not flagged. It depends on the airline. Negative way.
Yeah, but, yeah. I think certain airlines will make a note of it, so that when you book with them again, they may have you in the system as needing a need. I haven't seen consistency in that though, and I don't know if they do that or not, to be honest with you.
Well, and that's a good point. The as Americans with Disabilities Act requires them not to ask you for your diagnosis or any proof. People are nervous about that sometimes because,
correct.
Do I have to bring something that says I have anxiety? No, you don't. What you have to do is be able to communicate what need you do have.
Right.
So like in your case, like I need help getting through security right now because I'm having trouble seeing, and having that issue.
Yeah.
Whereas people that have anxiety, you can say, I can't manage the crowd. The crowd is too much for me right now. I need assistance to get through.
That's actually what I did on our European flights, when we were waiting to board. Now it seems like everybody starts lining up as soon as they say we're going to be boarding.
Yeah.
The flight, it's like people just line up in droves.
Yeah, and no decorum.
There isn't none whatsoever. And so, we're very open to the fact that our kids have anxiety. Kyle and I have it ourselves. And so, even though he and I were not anxious about that, it was the first flight for the girls and they both were very anxious. So I just went up to the desk and just told them, and they said, oh, sure, you just come up whenever we call for first class boarding and just make sure that you state that you have an anxiety issue. And she said, it'll be perfectly fine. You can go ahead and board then. So I urge people not to overdo things. If you don't really suffer from anxiety, then don't do that. Don't use that. Don't, because you're really taking it away from people who truly do.
Yeah.
And I'll just do a plug for next week's show while I'm here. I'm going to be all by myself, and I'm going to do my very own podcast by myself next week because you guys are all going to be traveling. And it's tips about how to deal with travel anxiety and some things that I've found that we've done that actually helps out quite a bit. So tune in next week for that show.
Yeah. And the other major issue that comes up for people when they're flying is allergies.
Yeah.
And so, all the airlines, they've stopped serving peanuts. So they've removed that. But every airline allows you to bring your own food on board.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you have an allergy,
buy a bag of peanuts in the
in the terminal.
store. So.
Yeah.
Right.
I worry about that sometimes. We don't have allergies, thank goodness. We don't have to deal with that. But I've thought about that in the past when I buy my peanut M&Ms, because that's like one of my favorite snacks to carry on myself. And I always worry. I'm like, oh gosh, what if the person next to me has a peanut allergy?
So at least on Southwest, if you tell the gate that you have an allergy, they make an announcement on the flight and tell people not to take any.
I've heard that before on flights that I've been on, especially longer flights. Like when I've gone to California, they've made an announcement before.
Yeah, so be sure you're communicating that with your gate agents. If you haven't flagged your tickets ahead of time by calling in, definitely make sure you tell the gate agent, because you don't want to be up in the air and think, oh, it's fine because they don't serve peanuts.
Right.
And the person behind you, without you realizing it, whips out their PB&J and starts eating. And if you have an issue with airborne, that would be really bad for you. So don't do that.
Really, if the person behind you whips out anything, you should be worried. No whipping out of anything on the plane.
Yeah, don't whip things out.
That's
better.
on the plane.
Yeah.
There are rules.
Decorum, please, folks.
Which, what's funny is I was watching a movie recently, and I can't remember which one it was, but they were talking about the Mile High Club.
Yeah.
And I was watching it with my daughter, our daughter.
Dear.
And she's like, Mom, have you seen those bathrooms? And I'm like, I can't.
Well,
And I'm like, I have, and it's awful. I'm like, I don't understand. I'm like, I mean, unless you're on an Emirates flight that has like a shower and it's like the
Right,
you
exactly.
get your own room.
right.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't know. Anyway,
La 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 la.
Yeah. The whole thing is just whew. Anyway. So that kind of brings me, the whole idea of the person behind you brings me to it this week in the news.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I read this.
Yeah.
I saw this whole article
Yeah.
about the punching. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk
That
about
was
reclining
obnoxious.
seats. Do you guys recline?
No.
No, absolutely
No.
not.
No.
Reclining on a plane is dumb.
It
Yeah.
really
Like
is.
if what to get like an inch backwards, like that's not reclining. That's like your seat's broken.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
That's annoying.
Like, and it's like, come on, there's somebody behind you,
Yeah.
and especially as somebody with longer legs, myself, somebody reclines, they're in my lap.
Right.
Yep.
Not
Absolutely.
really what I'm looking for.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So
Well, they're in, when they
Yeah.
recline for me, they're in my boobs.
Mhm.
So then I'm like, where do
Your
I
tray
put my
ends up in your-
iPad? I'm like,
Yeah.
where am I gonna put this?
Yep.
Here, let me put that on top of your head.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, and there's just no reason. Like, come on. I mean, if you're on like a 13-hour flight, sure.
But even
But-
then, like you said, like it only goes back a centimeter.
Right.
So
I
it's
mean,
We
like,
didn't
I don't
even
know,
do that
maybe-
on our European flights.
Maybe a European flight or something.
Yeah.
You've got more room or whatever. I don't know.
And
But
even then, it should be consensual.
right, like you
The,
should
the,
like
the
choose,
seat
like,
reclining part, you should ask.
it's like a nuclear launch. Like two people have to have the keys and turn them at the
Right.
same
Yeah.
time. Be like, hey, back there, I'm gonna move my seat. Is that okay? Like, all
that
right, I'll
okay?
push the button. Hold on. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pushing the button. Go ahead, you push
Here
it
I
now.
come. Yeah.
Right.
the thing is, and that's apparently what Delta's CEO came out with this week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was like, oh, you need to talk about it amongst yourselves. I'm thinking,
No,
have you
I'm
met
not
people on
talking to
airplanes?
anybody on an airplane.
Like maybe in first class that would work, but you're
Yeah.
sitting back
Right.
and coach with us.
Oh my
People
God.
are not friendly like that.
Oh my
I
God,
mean,
don't
some
wanna-
people
I don't want
are,
to talk
but-
to you on a plane.
Right.
Like, I
Yeah.
just put my headphones on and forget where I am. Like,
That's
I don't
true.
want to talk to anybody.
That's true. That's a good
Never mind
point.
the
It's a
cretins
fantasy
beh-
world.
Right, you're gonna talk to the cretins behind you? No, I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Well, I don't even want to lean back and say anything.
Right? No, I'll
Right.
just sit there in my seat. We're all good. If everybody stay, just
Everybody's
remove the
fine.
button. Remove the option from the seats.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like there's no point to it.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you're on an overnight flight, you're gonna be
But I
uncomfortable.
do think that person's reaction to the lady
Yeah.
leaning back was a bit
That's
extreme.
Yeah,
inappropriate.
because he was what,
Wow.
punching the seats?
Punching the seat. Yeah.
Pushing it and punching it.
Right, which I'm surprised they didn't just stop him from doing that. Like,
Right.
come on.
You would have
all,
thought they
all you
would
would have had
have.
to say was like, "Hey, this guy's punching my seat. Like, make him
Yeah.
stop." Like, all right, Mister, you got to stop punching the seat, right?
Yeah, I don't understand that because someone would punch
Well, no,
my seat
'cause
once.
It's more fun to get the video and then complain about it on YouTube and everywhere else.
Well,
than
because
it
you
is
want
to,
money
like-
from the
right.
airlines. Or
Yeah, I think there's a suit happening now.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
You can't sue for that. Come on. Like,
Well,
what are
people
you
can
going to
sue for all sorts of things.
What do you say?
Sure.
Oh, pain and anguish and suffering. It's like, well, put the damn phone down and actually like do something about it,
No, communicate like humans, you know?
right?
Say, look, the reason why I'm doing this is I've got a massive headache and I'm hoping maybe that leaning back will help my head.
Right.
It
Yeah.
won't.
It probably won't, but say something.
But say something, you know?
Or you know what? Just here's my thing though.
Just
So
put
I'm
your
not a
damn- Put your damn
recliner.
seat up.
I'm not a recliner. But if I did recline and someone punched my seat, I'd be the last person in the world to lift my seat back up.
right?
Oh, you're more likely to try to push it farther
Yeah.
back. Like,
I'd be back there like, you're not gonna push me around, dude.
and then push the two seats next to you down. The people are like, we don't want to recline. I don't care. You're reclining.
Everybody recline.
Everybody's going back now.
But I also think I think as an airline, I would want my passengers communicating as little as possible because now you're up in the air and you've got a guy that's willing to punch the back of your seat.
For
Yeah.
however long.
Do you really want someone to talk to that dude?
It's like, what are you afraid of, a mutiny or something?
Yeah. Or a fight amongst them. Like,
right?
if he's willing to punch this lady's, and she was an older woman, I think, right?
I don't know.
But-
But she wasn't young, but
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, she may have been 43 like me, but hey, she didn't look like a spring chicken.
Right.
43
Like,
and me. What?
This man is willing to punch her seat. And that doesn't show
Right.
me, tell me, you guys know, if someone reclined into you all, you wouldn't start punching their seat.
No.
Never.
Mm-mm.
Like,
It
I
depends.
may have once or twice let the
Depends.
tray down aggressively,
Right?
and like hit the
Right.
tray,
And actually
just
push
to
the
let,
seat down like
right,
a little bit
exactly,
extra. Like
just so they knew I wasn't happy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know. So, who has a real ID here?
Mm-mm.
Nope. Nobody.
Buddy. All right.
Mine's I renew in
Nobody.
August, so I will get one
I'm
then.
going to apply for one this week.
Yep, Kyle is.
It just occurred to me, hey, I'm traveling this week. Oh, crap. I better go ahead and get
Oh,
one.
I should
Well,
get my thing. Yeah.
I'll take my passport to the airport with me and use that until I get it.
Yeah.
So in North Carolina, did you already have to have the real ID?
No, it's been an option for at least a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know when Maddie got her learner's permit, we went through the process of getting the information that she would need for a real ID. And so now, I mean, you have the option, I think like it is in New Hampshire, you can do it or not do it. It's up to you.
Yeah.
But it's strongly encouraged. So,
Yeah. So Allison has the real ID because
Maddie
when we
does
got
too.
her license, it was like, why not just get it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just easier at that point.
But the interesting thing is, it's still going to be, what's the word? An option for everybody.
Yep.
Mhm.
You can go to your DMV and you can get a regular ID and not a real ID.
Right.
But that means as of October 1st, in every state around the country, you will not be able to use your regular driver's license to access federal facilities, to enter nuclear power plants for all you people that are going to be doing that.
Right.
Wow.
You can't
Okay.
as of October 1st. And you also can't board commercial aircraft as of October 1st, 2020 without a real ID compliant driver's license.
Right. Because those IDs are not for federal identification.
Right.
That's really for federal identification, which is real ID. You have to, provide specific documentation that you are who you are, and they can cross-reference all that stuff and then figure out, yep, okay, you are actually that person. And that's really what that whole process was for, just so that they could do that.
Yeah, in 2005, Congress passed the Real ID Act, and the reason for that was up until that point, states could determine whatever they wanted in order to issue a driver's license.
Right.
So there's no standard.
Right.
So this Real ID, it has minimum standards, and which is why it can be used for that.
Yep.
And so just real quick, I wrote down there's 5 pieces that they require in order to have a Real ID issued. It is proof.
And before you say all that, though, obviously check with your local, blah, 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 all that stuff.
Well, this
Yes.
should be consistent.
Check with your local DMV anyway, just because we're not the experts in getting an ID. So
It's not legal advice.
right, exactly.
Yes, we're not lawyers.
Yeah.
However, we are travel agents, and I did my due diligence, and the end of my spiel was going to be, but every state has the ability to make things more stringent.
Okay.
So for
So
that
this is
reason,
a baseline at least.
yes, this is the minimum standard. And then your state, you could live in maybe, Ohio, and Ohio could say, oh, you also need to prove that you know the Ohio State theme song. That could happen.
And provide a blood sample.
Right.
And
So everybody has to have documentation proving their full legal name. And for women or anybody that may have changed their name since birth, you have to show proof of your original name and your new name. So you'd have to have a birth certificate and a marriage certificate to show that switch and when it occurred. A date of birth, your social security number, 2 proofs of address of principal residence, and then your lawful status in the United States. So someone with a green card absolutely can get a Real ID, but they have to show their green card that it's active to show that they have legal status here in the United States.
Now, if you have a passport, what does that substitute for?
So that will prove your legal name, your date of birth, and your lawful status.
Okay. Not
But
your
it
social
would not-
security?
Right. Your social security number is not on your passport.
Okay.
And it also won't prove your current residence.
Okay.
So what can be used for all of that? If you go to your state DMV, it'll show you specific examples of things in your state.
Right.
when we got Allie's RealID, and you guys probably ran into this, she doesn't have a mortgage in her name or a light bill or
Right.
So we used her report card because it was a school report card that had her birth date on it. And her physical exam record from her pediatrician.
Okay.
But like we literally brought in like 8 things to show that because I was like,
just to make sure.
and I said she doesn't have a bill in her name, not a single bill. And the woman was like, "It's okay." Like, and her car that she drives doesn't belong to her either; it belongs to her father. So
Right.
But there's all of those things, and again, states can add additional things. So you want to make sure to go to your state DMV or motor vehicles, driver's license places. And if you're not sure if your ID is a real ID, which I didn't realize could possibly happen, but it can. People may forget that they were issued a real ID.
Oh, okay.
It has a star on it.
Yep.
And if your ID is not real ID compliant, it may say not for federal identification, but only if it's recently been issued.
Right.
So
if it's an older one, then it just won't have a star on it. And it's,
right.
Yeah.
And that, correct me if I'm wrong, but that star is not necessarily the same for every state, is it?
So that was the funny thing when I saw, right? There's 4 different main star options. One is a gold star, one is a black star, and then there are 2 that are either a gold star or a black star with a circle around it. And then this is my favorite one. California has their bear, their logo on their flag is a bear.
Yeah. Right.
The bear with the star on the rump.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I was like, okay.
Because California.
Right.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Our listener Stacy actually had brought up the point that she had gone to get her real ID and had everything she needed except her marriage certificate. So, her birth certificate doesn't have that name on it.
Right.
So they told her no. So she had to leave, and now she has to go back and do it again, which stinks because you got to wait.
Yeah, exactly.
Line and
and especially now the lines are going to be getting longer and longer and longer for everybody who's trying to get through.
Yeah,
and so October. Yeah.
What I saw too, which was fascinating, is the Department of Homeland Security last week. So that was mid-February 2020. For those of you that are listening further down the road, they came out with a statement saying they'll allow people to submit their documentation online. So now the states are trying to figure out how to manage that.
How are they going to accept that?
So some states will have a way, and other states probably won't. And I'm quite sure New Hampshire won't.
Yeah,
but that was just last Friday.
Well, and how are they validating that through the mail, or through an email?
No idea.
The way our DMV works is there's a person at the counter when you first walk in, and they check your documentation and tell you if you have everything you need or not, and then they'll tell you what you do need, and they'll give you examples of it. A lot of time it's that second proof of residency. When we were sitting there, that people didn't, not residency, but I guess where you reside.
Address,
your address. And they would be like, go search your car and find me mail. I mean, you got to have something in there. Your, your
your insurance
for your car or your
credit card bill,
tag or something. Go look and see what you can find. They were I thought they were very accommodating. Of course, some people get nasty with them, which I didn't understand.
Right.
Like, dude, you didn't read your stuff.
Right.
But so at least you weren't. Yeah, at least you weren't sitting there waiting for them to call your number to then find out you didn't have your documentation.
Yeah.
So I thought that was at least a better way to do it.
We have that too. I don't know how many states don't do it that way, but New Hampshire has a little desk right in the very front too, where it's like you got to pass that lady's gate before you can go in.
Yeah, before you're allowed to go into the real store.
Exactly.
So, just to recap, definitely look at your state's website. But as of October 1st, 2020, you have to have a real ID or a valid passport in order to board a commercial aircraft in the United States. So I have several clients. In fact, I have one that's flying home from Orlando on October 1st.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
And I've been like, red flags. Like, make sure. She's like, oh, we'll get it, I'm sure. I'm like, red flag. Like, hey, have you done it yet?
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to wait. And I know it doesn't take terribly long,
Because
but
it's a long drive.
right.
Yeah.
It's like, and they are not. And I'm like, this is it. She's like, oh, they did a lot of extensions. Yeah, they have done a
No,
lot of extensions.
more.
But
Not anymore.
No more.
This
Yeah.
is it.
15
So.
years is long enough to get your act together.
Right? That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
It's crazy.
Well, and a lot of the problems actually came from individual states, New Hampshire being one of them.
Yep.
We have this very weird thing about restrictions. New Hampshire doesn't like restrictions.
What? Live free
Live
and
free or
die,
die. I
right?
don't understand why.
Well,
Right.
more than the restriction, too, though, it was also the federal government didn't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
That was a big part of it.
And,
Yep.
and New Hampshire is going, oh, we're not doing it unless you're paying for it.
Yeah.
Because we don't play that way up here.
Well, and the other thing
if
is,
you're going to put something on us, you're going to chip in for the bill. So
I found out that one of the things people were hesitant of is that your social security number now, at least in New Hampshire, isn't tied to your driving stuff.
Yep.
Right.
Mhm.
But once you have a real ID, it is, and it can't be deleted. It's part of that record.
Yep.
So it's not printed on your license, but
Okay.
it's now in a system.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Of course, I
Which
keep
is-
thinking it's in every system anyway. So,
Right.
which is why they have the option. You don't have to get one.
right.
And if you want to fly on your passport.
Yeah.
Right. If you're really all that worried about the real ID, and having your social security number tied to your driver's license,
Yep.
just don't get one.
Mhm.
It's easy enough,
Absolutely.
right? Just make sure you have a passport.
Which
So.
is tied to your social security number.
Right.
Or drive.
Or
And
walk.
that's really
Yeah.
what it comes down to. This is what it's going to be now.
Yeah.
Where's my tinfoil hat?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Get yourself a nice pair of boots and some, cool wool socks and
Yeah.
start walking.
Yeah,
You'll get there eventually.
Yeah. Just
Unless
is
you're
what
going
it is.
overseas, which case get a boat.
Yeah.
Get a
Take a cruise. Oh, wait, then leave that too.
You need that
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
All right, everybody. I think that's going to do it for this week's episode. As Gina mentioned, next week she will be flying solo. Actually,
Yep.
she won't be flying,
I won't
Nope,
be
should be
flying.
on the ground.
but she's going to host an episode all about anxiety, flight anxiety, right?
Well, travel anxiety.
Travel anxiety.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'll be the one experiencing flight anxiety.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Not really.
So check that out. And obviously you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Hmm.
So definitely reach out to us. If you have questions about flights that you want to ask, feel free to do that. Gina and I will take the lead on those questions.
Yeah.
Because
We're
that's
the
kind of what we
professional
do.
ones.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine then. Fine.
I didn't want to answer
Hit
your
us-
questions
I didn't
anyway.
Yeah, right. Whatever.
Feel
guys
free to
can-
send us a
No, I'm done.
DM.
Here. See you.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, everybody. We'll have an awesome week, and we will see you real soon.
Bye.
Safe travels, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.